it's important that parts of campus that don't think of themselves as engaged in this, there are lots of possibilities, not quite on the, double-digit $1 million scale, but then again, appropriate to those units. And so I want to, for those of you, I'm the Dean of Social Sciences, and I think my faculty, for the most part, see themselves as revenue generators, rightly, as revenue generators through student fees and tuition. The division teaches 25% of the students. Probably, I'm going to do a calculation on how many of them your Cal athletes major in the social science division, but I bet it's a lot. So I think their view is that that's how they generate revenue for campus, is through student credit hours, delivering fees and tuition, which are, the view of, I think, my faculty is that their major contribution as revenue generators is through student fees and tuition. They teach a quarter of the campus, and I think my job has been to get them to think beyond that way of thinking a little bit and to think about other things they can do. So I've been pursuing with each unit a sort of exercise in thinking about appropriate strategies, both unit-specific and at the divisional level, appropriate revenue generation that is consonant with the instructional and research mission. And the one I'm going to talk to you about today, just briefly, and I'm not going to put a PowerPoint slide up because I failed at my quick and dirty technology because software keeps getting upgraded in ways that I can't keep up with, but is with the psychology department. And there, like any dean, I was looking at the psychology department's annual budget in my budget hearing with them, and I looked and I said, oh, psychology clinic, it's bringing in $40,000 a year, and I thought, can't we do better than this? This is a world-class faculty. It's ranked #1 in psychology, and here we have, a fee, a service for which we're being paid fees for psychological counseling. So I invited a group of faculty who are in the leadership in that department together to just brainstorm about what we might do with the psychology clinic that could improve its capacity to generate revenue. And of course, one thing we can do is revisit a fee structure that was set in stone about 50 years ago, and just optimize the services we're already providing. But the other was to think about other things that clinic might be doing that are more tuned to the 21st century. And I mean, I'd just like a show of hands. How many of you have ever had a student who has a learning disability in your classes, or have a child who has a learning disability like ADD or yeah, okay. Well, that was the obvious place to go. Every one of those students, and whether they're in kindergarten or in college, need a certification of their learning disability. So from that, and there is no central delivery for that in the East Bay. There is over in the South Bay, but that's pretty inconvenient, especially for low-income families, to go off and get that. So we came up with the thought of creating a Center for Diagnostic Excellence at Berkeley, which at one level could provide this low-end sort of vanilla diagnostic assessment activity, certification, using graduate students supervised by faculty, graduate students who are getting their PhDs in clinical psychology, but would be supervised by their supervisors, supervising faculty, and scale this up into something that would be a high volume delivery for students at all levels, from K-12 through UC. The other component of this Center for Diagnostic Excellence is about branding, and we have on our faculty probably the world's expert in bipolar disorder, and as many of you may know from former public events, boards of trustees meetings and so forth, also one of the most important sleep disorder clinics in the country. So we thought we would try a blend of both this low-level kind of vanilla garden variety, high volume assessment with using graduate students who can implement very simple tests to assess things like hyperactivity and attention deficit disorder, but also have a boutique component of the clinic, because there is nothing more life-threatening than getting a bipolar diagnosis wrong. And there is nothing more compromising of very high-performing careers than chronic sleep disorder, as many of you may know. So that was the beginnings of something, and it's consonant with the mission of that department. In other words, it is not asking them to do something that they're not already doing very well. It's just finding ways to help them to scale it up and make it more remunerative than it is at the current time. So we availed ourselves of the advising resources that John made possible, and had one of his consultants come and talk with us. And now we've got a plan for a seed project that will be about 3 years, and there will be co-investors that, you know, to give you a sense of how small scale relative to what we just saw, you know, co-investing to $100,000 in startup for something that will clear about $180,000 a year in its smaller form for a 3-year period, which could easily be scalable with more space and more facilities to something much more, you know, in the tune of $500,000 to $1 million a year. Now, that may not sound like very much money to the campus, but it's a startup package for a faculty member in the psychology department. And as many of you may know, the salary is only, you know, a small portion of the challenge. So that's, and it's a very small investment, and a co-investment on the part of the dean and the unit itself and Central Campus could make that a very reasonable beginning, and who knows where it will go if we can co-partner with clinical psychologists in the area who are looking for affiliation. Many of them are actually training and supervising psychologists on our campus as it is, and would love to be more branded with Berkeley and are extremely high quality people. So it's a chrysalis of something, and I guess my main takeaway message is that, you know, nothing is going to work for everybody, and you don't have to become Haas or athletics in order to substantially change the financial footing of the units that you're involved in, and you can do it in ways that are completely consonant with their own understanding of their academic mission, both instructional and research. So it is possible to do well by doing good. So.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks.